And do we want to go ahead and pull up the slides?
Yep. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Oh, there they are. It's over in the corner. Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I've got my screen stretched so I can see faces, so it changed my view. Let me
I see.
Let me change that so that that is bigger. Okay, everybody. Welcome to our March 7th Policy Advocacy Committee meeting. I'm so excited to have you all here today. I wanted to, in addition to welcoming everybody, I was hoping that if there are some of you who have never joined us before, we would love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Do we have folks that are here today that have never attended a Policy Advocacy Committee meeting before?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight to it. This is actually my first one. So thank you so much, Monique, for extending the invitation. My name is Maria Pelaez. I am a development specialist here at Riverside County Workforce Development Division. So happy to be here today.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and popcorn over to my colleague, Andrew.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Duran. I'm also a development specialist with Riverside County Workforce Development. So Maria and I are in here for our first meeting.
Welcome. Well, we hope you guys will continue to be a part of our team. Workforce development is critical to the whole continuum of care system, and the WIOA programs are critical to success for that. I understand you guys were at some kind of a conference where some really cool stuff was happening. Is that right, Monique? She's saying yes.
Yes, we were there, and a lot of great information. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Anybody else that would like to introduce
I'll jump in as well. I am with Riverside County's Public Defender's Office. I'm a social service practitioner. I work with transitional aged youth, both that have been or are justice involved. So those would be our public defender clients, but we also work alongside our transitional aged youth in the community as an intervention program to try to provide resources and also consultations and help with their criminal case or prevent criminal case stuff. So
well, thank you so much. And if there ever was a day for you to join us, it's today, because we have a call to action for our reentry conference and kind of what we've been doing around the work to support reentry. And reentry covers all of the working groups on our whole continuum of care system. So I'm super excited. Is there anybody else that's in the house today that has not been to a policy advocacy committee meeting before? Anybody else?
I haven't. My name's Ismael. I work at UCR as the director for Underground Scholars. We work with formerly incarcerated system impacted youth and adults.
Oh my gosh! Woo! I'm so excited. Welcome. Today is the perfect day, and I hope those of you that are in this space that have this experience, when we talk about the call to action today, and when Casalda and Vanya give an update on the reentry working group, I hope you guys are not going to be shy and going to join in the conversation. We know Casalda will get up and do a dance, right? Casalda, you'll be super excited about that, right? Oh, you're muted.
I'm excited. I don't know if I have a dance in me right now, but let's see, maybe a second wind.
Okay, good deal. Okay, let's see. Somehow my slide view has disappeared again. Let's see. Can you all see the slides? Yes?
No, no.
There they are. Okay, good deal. Okay, if there's nobody else that is new to the Policy Advocacy Committee today joining us, we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. And the next agenda item is a consent item and is calling for the approval of the minutes from our September 7th meeting. And before we entertain a motion to approve the minutes, I wanted to let you know there's two little itty bitty placeholders in there where you'll see a reference to, I believe, the League of Cities and a question that I asked, and it has a ... So with your permission, we will request that the minutes be approved and then they can be updated. It doesn't have anything to do with any kind of an action or request. It was just a statement that was made. It's either we approve them as they are or we punt the minutes to the next meeting. But if you've looked at them, it's like really super minor. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Oh, and you see Mar put the link to the Google Doc drive. So you all have access to the Google Docs, which has the minutes, the calendar, the agenda, so on and so forth. That's always part of the continuum of care package that goes out. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Criselda. Any objections or abstentions? Perfect. Hearing none, the item passes. We can move on to the next agenda item. Okay, everybody, what we have before us today is the calendar for approval, and you will see proposed dates on there. And what I would like to do is entertain a motion to approve. I believe there's going to be one change from what you may have saw on your calendars. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mar, but I think that May 9th is the new proposed date that we have, because
Correct.
there's probably going to be a symposium that day. So the calendar notice that you may have received that had an earlier date in May is going to be changed if we all approve this calendar today. So what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to approve the 2024 calendar. Do I have a motion? Come on, you guys, don't be shy.
I motion
I'll
to
make a
approve.
motion.
Yeah.
I
Thank
second
you,
it.
Michelle. I do have a second.
I second Renee Hexted.
Oh, hey, thank you, Renee. Appreciate you. Okay. Do I have any abstentions or objections? Hearing none, the item passes. Okay. Let's move on to the next agenda item. At this time, members of the public may address the Policy Advocacy Committee for items that are not on the agenda. You have up to 3 minutes to make a public comment. Marielle, did we receive any comments in writing from the public?
Nope, none received.
Okay. Do we have any folks here today that would like to make a public comment? If so, let us know. Please raise your hand. We're shy today. Oh, Michelle, hey. Let's hear it, Michelle.
City
And then-
Council next Tuesday, we will be taking a local affordable housing trust fund staff report to City Council so that we can allocate all our grant funds program incomes to that account. And then also all properties that are purchased in the city with our general fund, 50% of those sale proceeds will be going back into that affordable housing trust fund to loan back out for the development of affordable housing. And we are also pursuing local housing trust fund through the state. So if you want to call in or show up and support, feel free to do it. It's on Tuesday. Council usually starts, I think that one, sometimes it's at 1 and 3:30. It starts at 1 o'clock in our city council chambers. You can also go to riversideca.gov if you can't. You can watch it live on there. And then you can also send e-comments if you can't make the meeting. So I appreciate your
everybody, let's raise the roof for the city of Riverside. That is like amazing. Michelle, question, do you guys have any partners? I know there for a while, you know, we saw like WRCOG looking to try to do a housing trust, and I think there's some with some other group, I forget the name. I'm just curious, is this like Riverside going solo? Can you tell us just a tiny bit more?
Yeah, we're doing it solo, but then we always do, when we have NOFAs available, we'll put that out that affordable housing developers and partners can apply for those resources. So if there's a subpopulation that you guys are looking to build for affordable housing, let us know. And if you're not on our affordable housing interest list, reach out to me and we'll make sure that you get added on there. And we'll make sure you're in those NOFAs go out through the COC as well.
Great. Well, I was just thinking partners in terms of resources versus developers. You guys are very proactive, and I know that you guys just like are on the cutting edge for all that you do for affordable housing. I'm just so proud of the city of Riverside. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see, Ismail.
I just wanted to highlight what I put in the chat for an upcoming event that we're having with the Office of Youth Authority and Restoration. Basically, they are the state's division in charge of youth in the juvenile halls. And we're having like a town hall. It's not so much a town hall meeting, but wanting to hear from voices of the youth that have been incarcerated between the ages of 14 and 24 in Riverside County. And it'll be at Rubdo High School on the backside where the adult ed center is. So please feel free to share out to anybody that you know that maybe stayed in Riverside County juvenile hall between that age frame.
Monique, can I ask you a question and put you on the spot? Are you guys a part of that and getting the word out through your channels, through the Yak and the Yab?
Yes.
Of course
We
you
just
are.
got the yeah, we got the information this morning from
Okay.
Ismael, and that's where I was like, Ismael, you need to come to the policy advocacy meeting to share that information. I was like, we're going to be talking about a similar summit, so yes, we will send that out to the COC, to Yak Yab. We'll bring it out during the YHGP call on Wednesday as well, and then some of our Yab members actually are on the call for policy and advocacy. So Yab, if you all are interested in that event or participating, feel free to reach out to myself or Ismail if you want to put your information in the chat. If you're okay with youth reaching out, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, good job. Of course, I should have known better, but thank you so much. I love how you're so proactive, Monique. Really appreciate it. Any comments or question about this super exciting event? Please do get the word out. It's really all of this kind of could feed up to the larger youth initiative, right, that we're trying to focus on here in the region. And Monique is a part of that YHTP. That remind me, youth. It's remind me what YHT Youth Housing Demonstration Program.
Youth Homelessness Demonstration
Homelessness.
Program.
Okay, I'll close.
It was very close. I like it.
Very close. And we got a big, huge award. I think probably like third largest in the nation. They're doing all kinds of assessments, which I'm sure Monique will have updates for us. But when you think about the continuum of care system, we're all connected and a part of this tapestry. So each of us plays an important role if we're all working together to coordinate. So anyways, good job. Anybody else have any other exciting updates?
One last thing I'd like to mention, that the youth that attend will get $25.
Nice. Stipends are always so important. That is a great strategy. So, okay. Any other public comments before we move on? All right,
Madam
let's
Chair,
go. Yes.
if I may, I think some members in our youth working group need to head out to another meeting early. Is it possible for our working group to go first?
Yes. Yes. Are you
Maria,
guys
Andrew, does that work?
Mm-hmm. Do you need to go now? Do you want me to move you up to the agenda now or wait till after we do the call for action?
Folks in my working group that have items to present, like Maria, Andrew, are you all able to stay through
You know what?
that item?
We were in an all staff meeting that finished up early, so we're actually here now, so we don't need it.
Oh.
We're good with whatever works best for you. I don't want to disrupt the flow.
No, you're good. I love these spaces, especially with Karen Roper. She is very flexible. So no, I appreciate you all being here. And if that's okay, then we will proceed as usual if the rest of my group is okay.
Because who knows what one of my favorite sayings are? Anybody? Marielle, what is it so they can hear you?
Blessed are the flexible.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Blessed are the flexible, right? In this space, we have to be flexible. Almost sometimes we feel like we have to be pretzels, right? But that's what it takes in this space, whatever it takes to get the work done. So I always have to remember plan A, B, C, D, E, whatever it takes to get there. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next section of the agenda, new business, which is the section 4. So let's start with the next agenda item. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, this is our call to action. If you guys can't tell, I'm like super duper pumped about this reentry conference, and I want to tell you a little bit about it and give a call to action and see if we want to have any discussion around it. And then, of course, I know Griselda is going to have some really super cool things to give an update about. But first of all, what I would like to do, if those of you that were not here before at the last meeting, I gave a huge shout out to Vanya. Is Vanya with us right now? I don't see her, Griselda. Do you know if she's joining us today? She is the head of Starting Over, which is one of our premier providers that focuses on reentry. And Vanya is an amazing leader around the issue of reentry. And she has all kinds of programs and services that do amazing things to help people successfully reenter. And Griselda has a number of different hats that she wears. She worked for Vanya, I believe, at Starting Over, and has been an active member of reentry and just outside of the reentry working group, also just I think work that you did at UCR, work that you're continuing to do at National Core. It's a big issue for you. So want to really give a shout out to the folks that have worked so hard on this particular issue. And Vanya herself wrote a grant and got a $60,000 grant to support this conference. So quite frankly, we are very blessed to have her leadership to have done that and allow us to be a part of this. So I wanted to just give credit where credit is due. And I also wanted to just at this point urge all of you to consider coming to this conference. I don't know if you saw the invitation that I sent out on March the 4th, but it had this flyer and a link to register. And the group that's been working hard to plan for this conference, I really want to focus your attention on the theme of the conference because it's Journey to Success, the road to transformative reentry. And I'm sure every single person here with us today, when you think about the clients that you serve, reentry touches all of us. So it behooves all of us to be at the table because A, we're either have resources, B, we need resources, C, we have great ideas in terms of policy that we can contribute to improve policy and improvement of the system across the board at varying levels. So I really, if you haven't registered and you're available, I hope that you will consider coming. In addition to the email that went out, we also, I asked Mar to send a calendar notice. So if you're on our continuum of care distribution, you will see there's already a calendar notice that makes it very easy for you to not only remember, I don't know about you guys, but I live by my calendar. Like if it's on my calendar, I'm good. I even put like notes of things to do on my calendar. Does anybody else do that or is it just me? Griselda is saying yes. So it's on your calendar and it'll give you the link to the flyer and also, you know, the link to, not the link to the flyer, the link to register, the flyer, everything that you need. So I really encourage you to participate. Let me see here. Oh, there's Vanya. Vanya, did you hear me giving you all this amazing credit for the phenomenal work that you've done to bring us this far? And you did. Okay, good deal. Okay, so let me see. Hold on a minute. Let me go ahead. So a couple of other things that I wanted to mention besides the opportunity to register, just to remind you that this event is taking place on March 28th. It's from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it will be at the Moreno Valley Conference and Recreation Center. And if you think about our whole system of care, there are many intersections related to reentry. So if you think about affordable housing, economic and workforce development, family reunification, healthcare, behavioral healthcare, right? Things like substance use disorders, mental health, even, you know, you heard earlier, Monique and folks from the Yak and Yab, those that are transitional aged youth or formerly in foster care that might be system impacted. those that might have gender discrimination in our LGBTQIA community, and even just the whole concept of whole person care and the whole system. This is super critical, and I think touches all of us in so many ways. And also, really, when you think about the topic of reentry, it impacts the quality of life for everybody. First and foremost, for those that need support for successful re-entry, but also for the community as a whole. So Vanya or Criselda, is there anything you would like to add regarding the conference, just in terms of a highlight that you might want to mention for our members, kind of get them super excited about this event?
I can go first.
I think,
Vanya?
go ahead. Oh, no, I was waiting for you. I just wanted to say, I think people are excited, Karen. There are 246 people who have currently registered. And we're looking to reach all the partners that the Continuum of Care has, who are CBOs who are doing this work, who might be looking for information or resources. And we just want to make those connections. So we appreciate the partnership, your vast reach, and both within the COC and the work that Criselda and her team have been doing with reaching community-based organization leaders has just been phenomenal. So thank you both.
We have a question. I think this came up in one of our planning meetings about whether or not it would be online or via the web. And I believe we are not set up for that, correct?
Correct. But we are looking into see what the capacity we can do that, because we know that transportation is a barrier for some folks, and we want to ensure that everybody has access to this information.
Okay.
So we're working on it, Gina. Always bringing up some good stuff.
Yes, very important. Hello, Gina, my dear. Thank you for speaking up and bringing up great suggestions as usual. Alberto, let's hear from you. Good to see you. Oh, you're muted. Oh, we still can't hear you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you want to type it in the chat since we can't hear you? Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions about this super exciting conference that we have for our region?
And just a reminder, this is a great opportunity to learn from not only people who are the reentry experts, but also folks with lived experience. We are bringing, that's kind of where this came from, is not only starting over learning about how to be creative and innovating to overcome some of these barriers, bridging the gaps, but that's something that we also talked about in our subcommittee is what are you experiencing in the low desert? What are you experiencing in the east? What are you experiencing in the west? How can we synergize and actually collaborate and identify the barriers and strengths and bring it together. So one of our members lifted having a conference, and why not? So this is a great space for folks who are up and coming doing reentry work, folks who don't think they're doing reentry work, but y'all are doing reentry work, and meeting and hearing from funders, meeting and hearing from best practices, what we learn locally. This is a very local lens region here. So very exciting stuff.
Well, and I think the other thing that's important to mention for all of us to reflect on, and this work touches us when we think about our clients across the board that we're serving and how we work to advocate for those that might, need multiple chances to be able to be successful and to not be judged and have a stigma because you know of a mistake that you may have made a long time ago. And that's something I think that is really super important in the work of reentry, is the right kind of education to be able to support folks that are reentering. Would you agree, Criselda?
Yes, but I would also say to how do we actually educate our community members, staff, and also employers, right? Reluctant employers. How do we actually educate them and humanize? Because again, 98% of folks are coming back to the community. And so how do we create that transition? But yeah, there's a lot of education that needs to be done while, all around.
Okay. Does anybody have a comment or an experience from the space that they work in where they may have experienced challenges and maybe didn't feel like they had enough resources to support somebody who was needing a successful reentry? Are you feeling like there are other partners that you need, other resources that you need with clients that are facing barriers and challenges? Do I have anybody out there that has had that kind of experience that would like to share? Come on, you guys, don't be shy. I know we have clients with barriers around this issue. Anybody? I see a
And hard to
hand.
believe if things were going that smooth, we wouldn't be having this reentry conference.
Yes. We probably all just need our double shot of Starbucks is what we need.
I think
Oh, I
Teresa's
see.
hand was up,
Well,
Madam
Teresa.
Chair.
I'll point out, it's always going to be hard for our justice involved individuals to access housing. When it comes to federally subsidized housing, I've encountered a lot of, I don't want to say that they're pretty much big issues, right? Like background checks, filling out the applications for our juveniles with their adjudications, the way that we apply them, and whether they're successful in getting the housing that they need. That's a huge, huge need. Hence the fact that, I've done my best to try to work and communicate, and I appreciate Monique for like bringing me on into these meetings, because then we get a little bit more support as to other resources that we could potentially tap into, learning more about transitional housing programs, trying to establish more connections with other CBOs in Riverside County to see how we can help these youth and adults, of course, because that's also an issue.
That is awesome. I'm going to put Renee on the spot. Renee, you help a lot of families. Are you finding this from the space that you stand through CalWorks and HSP or you're running into challenges for your families for successful reentry and integration?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm already registered, so I'm excited to hear the information that's coming down from this conference. But definitely some challenges with the families out there and trying to stabilize them. So I appreciate you putting this on.
Well, like like I said, big kudos to Vanya and a large group of people that have been really focused on reentry. Some that are part of the continuum of care, some that are not. We're very, very fortunate. Donna, looks like you have a question or a comment. Let's hear it.
I put something in the chat. They're out here in the Coachella Valley. Walker Beverly founded this nonprofit called Advancing Steps in 2019, and that is what he does. He was previously incarcerated, and he does a lot of reentry services, helps with housing, getting medical benefits. So I don't know if you've all heard of him, but maybe an invitation could go out to him to be included into this group, because what he's doing out in the desert is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever heard of Advancing Steps, but I put the link to his website in the chat.
That's great. And you know him?
No, we'll add him, but that's the whole point, right, Donna, is to identify folks who are being courageous and doing this type of work. How can we support them? So we were trying to think, okay, I'm a community-based organization. What do they need? They need funding. They need to be a part of the continuum of care. They need to know who else is doing this type of work in their region. So this is needed. This is a space for us to share resources, best practice, what's working, who's doing what, how can we support, who can move out of their way so they can actually do things, right? So we're going to have all those types of conversations.
You may be familiar with this conference as well. I'm not sure if maybe he's registered, but
Yeah, what's exciting is I think that, we will see, for those of us that are going to be attending, is we'll see some familiar faces, but we're also going to hopefully meet people that maybe are in this space that are not part of the continuum of care that you can actually learn from and partner with and, continue to just build on this important issue. So I'm like super excited about it. Anybody else in terms of just the value of focusing on this? Vanya, did you have anything else you would like to add while we're focusing on the call to action for today? Oh, you're muted, my dear.
Griselda probably covered everything. I would just say, if there are people that you don't know and they're doing reentry work, let's invite them to the COC.
Yes. Yeah, that's important. We talk about that a lot, everybody, because we want to continue to be as diverse as possible in the whole continuum of care. But even for the topic of reentry, if someone that is not at the table, please invite them. That is like super important. That's probably one of the biggest calls to action that we have, because this issue is such an important issue for our region. So
Karen, if I can say one more thing.
Yes, please.
That when it comes to housing, as tragic as COVID was, the one good thing that came out of that was a change in how they wanted to address housing for reentering people. And that is, we see it moving back the other way now. And we think there might be an opportunity to get some work done at the federal level. And, maybe that's something we might want to think about going forward, but that's another conversation. But I think this whole housing thing, and how are we going to provide housing to reentry people or reentering people, we have to do something with the look back periods that we have for people who are coming home. And so federally during COVID, they said, hey, get those folks vouchers. And that time is come and gone. So what are we going to do now? I think is the big question in my mind. So thank you.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I know the different housing authorities, as an example for Section 8 housing choice voucher, I know even if you look at the Riverside County Housing Authority, they've looked to relax some of the requirements in terms of not just the look back, but the nature of what might have been an offense, to be able to remove the barriers. So I think definitely a follow-up conversation with our housing authority, because they have the big portfolio of all of the Section 8 vouchers. Are you thinking anything beyond that, Vanya, or is it primarily just the vouchers? Because I know that's a big deal, really helps with housing.
I think that's the most significant one. Everything else is temporary. Nothing is as permanent as the vouchers, and historically reentering folks have been excluded. So if we could do work to actually do what we were doing during COVID, putting them in the hands, that's what we were mandated to do. I don't know what happened with that, but we'll be meeting with HUD and with the Riverside County Housing Authority, and see what we can find. And we'd love to partner with you all if folks are interested in that.
That's great. And something, Vanya, part of policy advocacy, there's a working group that focuses on legislation, and Greg Rodriguez heads that. And I think that there's an opportunity to liaise there, where we can look at if we need to be focusing on legislation and what that means. There's one thing for sure is that COVID improved so many things, I think, in this space, and we realized we could move the needle really fast, relax requirements, and get people boom off the streets into shelter and into housing quickly. So where we see that we're losing ground, I think we definitely want to be vigilant. Thank you for bringing that up. Super important policy matter that we want to definitely take on. Anything else that we should be discussing for our exciting reentry conference? Any other persons that may want to make a comment, ask a question, share a story before we move on? Okay, hearing none, Mar, let's go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. We're going to proceed with working group updates and progress. So let's go ahead and get started. By the way, isn't that a cool picture of Supervisor Spiegel on that count of the homeless? I love it. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda. Okay, youth policy and advocacy. Monique, you are up.
Yes, thank you all so much. So as you all kind of heard from the new members that are joining, we have added more folks to our youth working group. So very excited to have them here for their first policy advocacy meeting of the year. I had strategically invited you all to this meeting because, right, as we're talking about reentry, I feel like we need to have those partners in the room that are experts and those youth in the room, right, and hear from them as they continue to do this work every day. And so I didn't want to represent a whole subpopulation that I'm not always super familiar with. And so I had invited Maria as well, and I saw some of our YAB members who were also at the conference. This week we were at the National Youth Employment Coalition, so please excuse me that I don't have my slides ready, but I will post them afterwards so that everyone has access to the information. But we attended a workshop yesterday. It was called Building Effective Pathways, Removing Barriers to Employment and Economic Mobility for Young People with Records. And so it was really important for us to be in that session, as well as be there alongside our youth members that attended, who are also on this call. Not to call y'all out, but good job, Terry, Tori, and Chantel, for just being there and being youth leaders, really advocating for the gaps and barriers that we've been facing, right, as a youth council, as a youth group, but also, right, when we're thinking about policy, what was, the policy that was discussed at the conference that is going to be right in effect. And I hate that you all left early, but we heard from the Department of Juvenile Justice. And so hearing, right, the new programs that they were going to put in place, but also how that ties into workforce. And so I invited Maria and Andrew as well, and she invited Andrew so that they can also help in sharing some more information on the workforce side around what's to come in terms of programming and funding that's available to support folks that are system impacted. And so I really liked the session yesterday because it posed questions to discuss in terms of challenges and barriers that young people face in the working place, right, and that they're facing when seeking employment opportunities, right, and how these records, right, especially for youth that right, have items before they're 18, and then right when they do turn 18, there's different barriers, right, when they're minors and when they're not, and they're full adults at 18. So being able to navigate some of those questions alongside our youth really poses, so then what is, right, our approach as a county, and what kind of items do we need to be funding, right, what kind of agencies and programs do we need to have in place so that we can support young folks, not only with, right, records, expungements, seals, which we've seen a lot of in terms of that need, but also continuing our collaboration and partnerships with agencies like Teresa's, who's with the Spark program. The Spark program has provided a lot of support for our youth members and other youth in the community when it comes to how do I navigate now that I have a record as an adult, and how do I expunge or seal that record, right? And knowing that that's a possibility, right? And something that they can do in order to break down that barrier of getting employment because of a background check. So we've seen a lot of those gaps in needing more additional resources, right? We know that there's educational barriers to financial aid. And so I invited Ismail as he works with students. And so what are those barriers and challenges that students face when they're coming into, right, higher education, right? And a lot of them are intersected with other items like being former foster youth, right? And then being system impacted. And so being able to really bring them in as well so they can help us identify those gaps and barriers, and what kind of programming do we need to focus on, and also what policy is being brought up, right, at the state level and at the federal level that's going to affect the students and the youth that we serve. I saw Gina's hand. Gina, you got a question?
Yeah. In terms of like the expungement and stuff, for some reason I'm thinking that there are ways that the law enforcement or what the courts can overturn the expungement. Am I crazy?
Well, Teresa. what's been our experience thus far, if I may call on you?
Yeah, of course. So every case is going to be completely different. And it's also going to look different for like our juveniles versus our adult cases.
But it is a possibility, and we've seen quite a few youth go through that process.
Correct. Yes, it is a possibility, but it's a case by case thing, and the youth are always encouraged, and so everyone is encouraged to please like reach out to their assigned attorney, or if they come to us, we can direct them to that assigned attorney so that we can get that process going for them.
But the cutoff is when they turn 18, right? So if they did something when they're 17, then they're possibly eligible for the expungement. But if they did the same thing, 6 months later and they're 18, they would not.
That would be them walking into the adult world with their case. And so if they did something that was juvenile and the case has been closed, it would depend if they were on probation. It would depend if they terminated their probation successfully. So all of those matters come into play when it comes to expunging the records and sealing them.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's a really good question. And so in the midst of that question, that's exactly the I was trying to figure out right as we're going through each youth and their unique case.
We can't hear you well, Monique.
Yeah, you're getting feedback, my dear. You want to try it again, Monique?
Can you all hear me now?
There we go.
Okay,
Perfect.
beautiful. And so that's exactly right. The questions that we're posing, right? What do they qualify for when they turn 18 versus when they're underage, right? And also between 18 and 24, what can we support them with to set them up for careers, education, and housing opportunities, right? With that kind of intersection. And so I know that Maria was also at the conference and also has some great items on the workforce side. But also, Yab, if you have anything to add for those that were at the conference, right? Or even talking about some of those barriers that were identified in our group conversations, or anyone that you met, anything that you all think would be really helpful for folks to know in this space. If you all would like to say anything as well. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Maria and then anybody else in our youth group.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Monique. I just want to go ahead and stress, Monique couldn't have said it better. A lot of great information was shared, but I think if there's something that stuck with me was that we need to start looking at, the hardships that our youth are facing and have a different approach. Let's not look at it as result driven, but rather relationship driven. And I think Monique and I were discussing that, and we came back. We're like, we are so rejuvenated, we are so motivated, and hence why Andrew and I are here today. We really want to go ahead and start building those relationships. Part of workforce goal and purpose is to support our local workforce with the resources and opportunities as much as possible to strengthen and empower them. But with that said, I can go on, but I don't want to go on and on. I'm going to go ahead and popcorn over to any of the YAB members. They were exceptional at this conference, and it was amazing seeing you three girls participate and just being there. So if you want to go ahead and share anything, the mic is all yours.
Let's hear it, ladies. Don't be shy. You guys have important things to share. We'd love to hear.
And that's okay. I think some of them are, sorry, Terry. I think some of them are at school, but also doing this while multitasking. So I don't want to put you all on the spot, but there was a lot of really great information shared in terms of just gaps that we need to fill for sure. And then I know, Ismail, maybe you can speak to the educational side and the student side of what challenges you all face and how do you address them as an agency, but also, right, what can we do in this space to continue to cross collaborate. And I'm also excited for Workforce to eventually share, once they're ready, an employment to work program. So that's going to be exciting news as well. And then we do want to make sure that our YAB is attached to Workforce so they are getting that support that they need alongside Spark. And so really wanting them to enroll in WIOA programs through the CFLCs, right? We love our California Family Life Centers and our Youth Opportunity Centers. And we want them, to be comfortable walking into these youth centers and also our workforce centers, to be able to get, right, everything that they need and build that. We talked a lot about social capital, right? It's sometimes not about what you know, but who you know. And so we want to make sure that they have a good social capital, for all of their needs, right, as we think about whole person care approaches. And thank you for sharing that, Maria. Ismail, if you want to share anything. Or Nikki, I know I saw Nikki. Nikki, anything in terms of the youth that I know we've worked on a ton of youth cases and getting those folks connected. I think it's difficult when they're former foster youth and system impacted. Right now, you have two systems with its own sets of barriers to face. And I know that during the conference we also talked about right, diversity and equity, right, in terms of what that looks like. And I shared with the group, if I may be a little vulnerable, was that I didn't face the same challenges as my sister, right, when we were 16 to 18, right, even though we had both committed very similar mistakes, right, and I did not face consequences for being system impacted, whereas she did, right? Part of it was, being a darker shade of brown. Part of it was the community that we lived in the environment. And two was social capital, right? She did not know the same people I knew, and she did not have the same foster parent support that I did. And, those things made such a difference in terms of our outcomes, right? If we're talking about two people that have or don't have, right? And I always think about that scenario and situation to know that, youth, right, need that social capital. They need a network of folks that they can call on, right? And a lot of things play into, right, how they end up, right, being system impacted, or how they end up, right, being housing unstable. And it's not just, right, the situation that occurs, right? It's a lot of factors that play into it, from your environment to your education, to your support system. And so, again, just really excited to start really building our relationship with workforce, right, and making sure that we're focusing on housing, employment, education, and social and emotional well-being, especially in the midst of YHDP, right? You all have participated in our YHDP calls, and so you all know that we want this youth funding to be strategically placed in the community, doing the programming that is needed based on not only the data that we have that shows the need for a lot of young folks, but based on the qualitative data that we've collected, right, from our YAB members sharing their experiences to, right, programs sharing the barriers that they face, and then, right, making sure that we're also creating accessibility to resources in areas of high need that maybe are in rural communities, that don't have the same access to resources, physically, right? Also because of geography. So, right, we know down to transportation. If you can't get transportation to go to an appointment, to, right, talk to somebody about your case, right? It's all these factors that play in that we always want to be conscious of. So I know I've taken up a lot of time, so I'm sorry, folks, but we're really excited to come back and share all of that.
Oh, don't be sorry. It's like really super important. We're gonna take Andrew's question, but I wanted to just thank you, Monique, for being so willing to just open your heart and share your story, and the contrast between you and your family member and the distinct difference. And clearly your lived experience just shines in everything that you do, and is helping so many people. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and willing to share that story. Andrew, did you have a question or a comment?
More a comment. I didn't know how to, jump in. I didn't want to speak in or just pop myself in, but kind of to speak with what Monique was saying is, I obviously she mentioned workforces support, but and WIOA support. So we do, while there is obviously that happening at workforce development, our team, Maria and myself, we specialize in special grants as well as what we call regional grants. So anything that we do collaboratively with San Bernardino County, such as prison to employment, which I'm not sure if people in here are familiar with. But what we're starting to learn is, or maybe not learn, but what we're starting to see is not not too many people are familiar with what Workforce does or what programs we offer or special programs. So what I'm going to do now is pop our special program webpage into the chat. If you're interested in any of these, there's a copy of the regional and the local plan, which is kind of created by workforce leadership within the region or within the county, and all of our special grants are aligned with those plans in mind. So when we build them, there's a lot of target industries that were forecasted to be booming in our region, but specifically the 3 grants that we have going right now, we all do have a component of justice involved populations. So if we're really want to spread the word or just the knowledge, or not the knowledge, but just our role in this. If anybody's interested, you're more than welcome to reach out to us directly and we can point you in the right direction. We don't do direct case management, but we do work with case managers, so we can always submit referrals. I think what we're realizing is the most important thing is like referral systems. So how do we hand somebody from one department to another, or one outside entity to within the county? So we are trying to work on that. We do see that maybe there's some gaps there, and we're trying to fill those. But if anybody has any specific questions about programs, please feel free to reach out to me.
Just for the benefit of the group, do you mind just highlighting a couple of things? If the scope of those programs include things like tuition reimbursement, vocational training, support for essential needs where folks might have gaps just for basic essential needs, and how far that goes.
They should be written into every program. So every program we try to keep in mind to write in support services. And those can range from, transportation assistance, childcare assistance. Each one depends. I will say, so we do want to remove, specifically with prison to employment, we do want to remove barriers. That's the point of prison to employment. But the problem with some of these state funded grants is the scale with which they want us to help the participants. Funding was cut a little bit. We're still recovering from COVID. So for prison to employment, for example, we actually received a smaller award than we did in the first round. So we're struggling with that because obviously inflation has not been kind to us, but they're giving us less money and expecting us to yield similar results, if not better results, because we were high performing in the first round of P2E. So what we've realized is, unfortunately, where P2E is supposed to be barrier free, we're having to rely on co-enrollment into regular WIOA services because we want to make sure that we can cover everything and not put any burden on the participants themselves. So we do encourage that, but there are instances where that may not be necessary. For instance, the apprenticeship program that we have, that one seems to be, because a lot of the apprenticeships are sponsored by an apprenticeship intermediary, we don't have to worry about training for that program itself. So each one's a little bit different, but there is a component to each one of those offering supportive services, training, we call them, or not what we call them, but I don't even think it's training reimbursement. I think it'll just be covered by our staff here. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't do case management, so I couldn't give you the exact process, and I don't want to mislead, but from my understanding, they create vouchers that are accepted by training providers.
Awesome. And it looks like, Carolyn, you have a question?
Hey, sorry. I actually just kind of building on what Monique was saying, and I work with California Youth Connection, and so we are a youth-led organization that works in policy and legislative change within child welfare. So a lot of the issues kind of that our membership has brought up is really, I think part of that conversation is recognizing the systems that are actively working to criminalize young people and to funnel youth into incarceration cycles. And part of that is the intersections between child welfare and incarceration, as well as group homes and just overall a complete negligence to recognize the intentional ways that law enforcement, the judicial system, and many other entities have intersectionally worked together to criminalize young people and not provide actual rehabilitation and services. And so part of that, right, is accountability. What does it look like to have larger system accountability and in using discretionary authority in how we engage with young people, how we support them, and that falls across all levels, right? Child welfare, social services, the educational system. And so I think that's a huge part of the conversation that many young people are already leading, and recognizing that there's certain policies that need to be eradicated.
Awesome. Good job. Other comments or questions regarding our youth policy and advocacy working group? Okay, good job, Monique and team. You guys are rock stars. Thank you so much. And boy, the information that you shared today was so appropriate for the big topic that we're focusing on for the conference. So thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move on to the next working group. Okay, so Mariel and I both were in communication with Greg at the same time. He is at Housing California, which is really super important because they are focusing on critical policies and best practices around affordable housing. So I do apologize that he's not able to give us his report today, but I know the next time that we convene, he'll have even more exciting things for us to discuss around housing policy, housing resources, legislation, because he always has great updates on what's going on with emerging pending legislation or impacts from existing legislation. So does anybody have any, before we move to the next one, does anybody have any comments or questions, things that we want to ask Greg or be focusing on for housing and policy? It looks like Regina.
Yeah, hi. I feel silly, but I don't know what the result is from the primary we just had on Prop 1, where they were supposedly shifting funds. Did it pass or did it not pass?
I thought they were still counting ballots. Michelle, do you know? Last I looked, it looked like it was about 50-50, like right neck and neck.
Yeah.
So I don't.
We're still waiting to hear.
Yeah, because I think that there's still a lot of ballots that were dropped off that were in the mail. So and because it's so close, I think they can't call it. Other times you know, when it's a landslide, they'll like make a call, but it is literally like 50-50 in terms of the votes that have come in. Okay. So we'll have to see. Okay. So Mario, we'll make sure to make a note for that we absolutely have an update, that Greg could give us an update on that.
Okay. And I probably should have done this in the announcements, but I was so busy trying to get in. I know I went to the Hemet building, oh God, the people that stamp of approval for plans and stuff for construction, and they are on the verge of building some affordable housing. So they're taking steps. They're pretty far along in the steps, and I do know that there was a specification. I don't remember the percentages, but there is a target centered on seniors, and I believe there was also a target figure to help the young adults that we were just kind of referring to. They can't come out of the system and they get lost. So it sounds really wonderful. I'm pat on the back to anyone that's here from Hemet. Okay.
Michelle.
One thing I also want Greg to track is Assembly Bill 2778 that's being proposed for mobile home parks. It would put a rent caps of no more than 3% plus the percentage change in cost of living, or 5%, whichever is lower. I know a few cities throughout the county do have rent control. We do here in the city, but ours is 80% of the consumer price index. So this would help create affordable housing for seniors that are living in mobile home parks, because as you can see, the last 3 years when there was inflation, a lot of seniors were at the, right at the edge of losing their mobile home because they weren't able to afford that increase in rent.
I know in my park, we lost a couple of people for that reason. And what was the Assembly bill number? I missed that.
It is, hold on. I'll put it in the chat box too.
Okay.
It's 2778.
2778. I will poke my nose into it. Thank you.
Other comments or questions around housing policy resources and legislative tracking before we move on? And again, I know Greg will have Michelle.
One is, are they ever going to put on TCAC the ability to increase households' rents if they become over income? We're able to do it with our federal grants, but TCAC, you can have individuals where they become over income, but their rent does not exceed the rent. And so there's no incentive to encourage folks to move out of affordable TCAC projects into market rate and make those units affordable for the population that still needs it.
Can you do me a favor, Michelle, just so that Marielle can get that exactly as you said it? Can you type it in the chat? Because we want to make sure it goes on record in minutes and that we follow up with Greg for legislative advocacy. Are you good with that? Because that's like really an excellent point. Do you mind doing that?
I'll drop it in the chat box.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody else around the topic of this working group? Okay, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next working group. So I know I saw Vanya had to leave. Did we lose Griselda? Griselda, are you still with us? I have a feeling we lost our folks, but I mean, basically the big focus was the conference. Obviously, what I'm really hoping to see become of this is that as a result of the conference, we'll get more people that are interested in focusing on reentry. And there's so much crossover or intersection, even like Monique, if you think about what your group talked about today, there could be cross-pollination and cross-participation. So I'm hoping that we'll see more people get involved in this and that we'll collectively we can do what we can to move the needle. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next. I think, yeah, we didn't have an update on healthcare and mental health care. So at this time, after hearing the reports that we have so far, is anybody interested in open discussion on any of the topics or any other topic that we should be focusing on in the future? Gina, do you have a comment or suggestion?
Actually, I forgot to put my hand down, but I want to applaud HWS for getting the the Hope for Housing thing going. I think they moved faster than I expected. So, but the last thing I heard was that the database was open now.
Marielle, do you have any updates on that, or Monique? So for the benefit of the rest of the group.
I do not on my end.
How
I'm
about you,
looking for the
Monique?
I'm gonna look for the information because I did see an email. I'll get back with Amy and then we will put that information on the minutes and also in the Google Drive.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, my dear, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No worries.
You're always so resourceful. Okay, yeah, so anyways, there's all kinds of initiatives that are all happening at the same time right now. It might seem a little bit overwhelming, but it's all good resources to be able to help us to do our jobs better, to either prevent homelessness or end homelessness. So super excited about what not just HWS is doing, but what you all are doing. Miss Ayako, you're quiet. Do you have anything on the policy front or anything you want to share with us?
Well, I wasn't sure if I should talk offline first, but I did a few weeks ago learn about this is Eastern Riverside County, that one mobile home park that's experiencing the polluted water and the county came in with some money to help the families relocate, but it's not enough money to, most of them want to buy a home, but it's not enough money to buy a home. I was wondering if, and again, the county was very generous with the money that was given to those mobile home park residents, most of whom were undocumented. But I was thinking, what can we do in terms of advocacy to protect that whole area there around Salton Sea, north of Salton Sea, Lake Quinta, all the golf courses and the high-end housing is encroaching on the land there. And I'm afraid that lower income people are going to be gentrified. Should we do some kind of advocacy around that, like between La Quinta, Salton Sea area, to help ensure that lower income families can stay housed in that area?
That's great. So I think a couple of things. One is make sure, Mario, we note it for the record for the advocacy around that area. I'm pretty sure HWS was involved in that, if I'm not
Yes, they
mistaken.
were.
I remember. Yes.
Yes, they were.
So I think that they definitely can provide an update on what efforts were provided. And then I think they can help to advise us on what might be the best approach. We can actually get some suggestions from Greg on that for where we should go from here. Yeah, and the community too, in terms of mobilizing the community. So
yes,
that's
again,
great.
I'm very concerned that the big investors, the golf courses, the high-end housing, they're going to push out low-income people. You can see it happening.
Okay, thank you so much.
Very, very concerned.
Thank
Donna.
you.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna just mention something, but from what nice lady was talking about, there's a lot of advocacy going on already between Raul Ruiz, and a lot of these mobile home parks are in tribal lands, so that's why you're having a lot of the problems. The water agencies are not connected, the infrastructure is really bad. So between Congressman Ruiz and Supervisor Perez, Greg, there's a whole group that's been working very diligently on helping a lot of these low-income families getting good housing. But a lot of it, again, is on tribal land, and can't get on it. The rules don't apply somehow, which is sad. But yeah, I just wanted to mention, if you guys didn't know it, that in Palm Springs on Tuesday, March 12th, from 11 to 1, the Palm Springs Navigation Center is having their open house. So for the homeless, and it's going to be a beautiful facility. Just wanted to mention that in case.
Donna,
I do not.
You don't?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't. No, I just have it on my calendar.
Okay. Maybe Mario, we can make a note to see if we could get that and if there's an open invitation.
Sure thing.
I believe it is. I believe it's an open house ribbon cutting. Greg should have information on that too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Monique, did you have some information for us, my dear?
Yeah, so actually one of our new members, Terrell, who's new to our COC but has been doing amazing work, has information around Hope to Homes, and has been working on that project. So Terrell, if you'd like to introduce yourself, again, we are happy to have you at the COC, and welcome to, I think this is your first policy advocacy meeting as well. And I'm so glad that you joined so that you can share more information about it if you're cool with that.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Terrell. I'm one of the new housing specialists going to be running the Hope to Home program. And so I heard there was a question. So we were going to be doing a provider training for the Hope to Home program for all of our providers that's going to be participating, but our website is not completely finished. And so we wanted to make sure that the website was up and working before we do our training so that everyone is on the same page and we have all the information that's needed on the website. So I did I did send an email out to all of our providers that came to the initial launch that I will be sending out another save the day training, hopefully sometime. It's going to be towards the end of this month. So for those of you that are interested in the Hope to Home program or was at the first meeting, we will have our scheduled training. It will be later on this month.
Is that going to go out to the whole CFC again, so everybody will get it, or
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
only to those? So everyone. Okay, cool.
yes, I'll send it out to everyone. Yes.
Perfect. And for the benefit, if people don't understand like what it does, can you explain the function of it so that people can understand the benefit of what will happen?
So yes, the Hope to Home program or project is going to be a collaborative initiative that's going to be working with COC ourselves, along with other housing providers that work with our population, and then um, landlords also. So it's going to be all of us working together. There's going to be a website that's going to be that I'm going to be running called Pad Mission, and where that is going to come in effect is we're going to have individuals, other agencies that, and landlords are going to be able to provide their vacancies into this specific database, this website, that only agencies and landlords that are part of this initiative will be able to access. So that way, because we see that some agencies and some individuals, housing navigators, have different know about different vacancies that they're not utilizing, and maybe someone else can utilize that vacancy. So instead of just kind of like holding on to your vacancies and your landlords and your contacts, we want to all come together and everyone share those contacts and those informations, so that if there is a family out there or there is someone out there that an agency needs a unit and they don't have one, they can go onto this website, into this database, and possibly find a unit that may be available. With that also, the landlords are going to be able to receive some incentives. So if a person from an organization that is partnering with us, if the landlord were to rent to a unit to one of the organizations, then they would be eligible for compensations up to, I believe we put it at $3,000 for damages, excessive damages that goes beyond the deposit that was used. And then also they will be able to apply for, let's say the tenant just like vacates the unit and just goes AWOL. We could possibly pay for a vacant, like 1 month's worth of rent for a vacant stay also. So these are just a couple of incentives that landlords can utilize to try to get them on board with this initiative that we are starting.
Awesome. Pretty exciting, right, you guys? One more piece of the system moving forward. Monique, thank you for facilitating that for us, my dear.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Terrell. Very, very helpful.
Thank you. You're
And
welcome.
glad you're part of the system.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay. Other comments of our open discussion? Anybody? Okay. I think at this time, if we move to the next part of the agenda, I think it's a call for future agenda items, correct? Yeah. Anybody have any requests for areas that we should be focusing on when we reconvene in May? Okay, well, if something comes up, you know how to reach us at coc@rivco.org. So just would like to thank you all so much for your active participation. Your representation, your voice is critical to the success of the continuum of care. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days to join us. And let's keep the momentum going and the change happening. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Karen. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.